hello to everyone who are online and for those who are about to connect soon. So I'm super happy to be here with all of you. I was saying pretty much an international crowd and our extended community and friends. So very, very pleased and happy to have you all on behalf of Remote. So guys, I'm going to kickstart because we have a lot of interesting content to share. As you all know, we are talking about health and transformational experiences for the new normal. We understand that this is a very timely subject to be brought. I mean, after the whole pandemic, that travelers are really looking for health and how to improve their time and make the most of their travel time for inner and outer transformation. And obviously inside our remote community, we have very interesting cases and from our buyers and sellers and friends. So I'm gonna already call the first speaker, who's Jake. Jake from Transformational Travel Council. He's gonna obviously introduce him a bit more in depth and on his project, but he's gonna share with us his topic on intentionally traveling for new ways of being and engaging with the world. So very rich and urgent subject. So welcome, Jake. On you, please. And just for those who don't know yet, every speaker have 15 minutes, so it's a pretty short time. If you have any questions, do send it over on the chat, and we'll have 5 minutes in between talks, and I'm gonna bring up the main questions. So we have tight schedule, but sufficient time for everyone to interact at the chat, okay? So thank you, welcome, Jake.
Thank you so much. Nice to see everybody. I appreciate you jumping on Zoom. I know that we're all zoomed out. Nothing like giving a presentation to my computer. So thanks for bearing with me. I'm someone that thrives on human connection and energy exchange. So it's always kind of interesting to sit here at my desk in Seattle and connect with all of you incredible souls around the world. Honor to be here. Yeah, it's been a real joy to work with you, Alice, and get ready for this presentation today. Quite the lineup. You know, I'm not going to name names, but I was in a virtual conference yesterday, and tourism conference, and it was about sustainability. And I gotta say, you know, it was a lot of the same old, you know, people just not quite understanding, you know, the opportunity that exists for us to shake things up, you know, in tourism and create the radical change that I think we all need, not just in tourism, but, you know, in our lives, in our homes and in our society. And I think tourism can play an incredible role in really lighting the way in our. Before I get started, or before we were getting started here, Claudia Roth, who's speaking later, said, "Hey, we're all light workers. We're all trying to do our thing to create a better world." So hopefully my presentation and the ones to follow will be beneficial and practical, inspiring and insightful. So on that note, I will get started and I will share my screen. All right. Did that work? Are we good? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Jake Hoppert, I am the co-founder of the Transformational Travel Council. I am based in Seattle, Washington, in the Pacific Northwest of the States. And I'm going to ask you guys to maybe engage a little differently today. I'm going to take you on a little bit of a transformative journey, if you will. So I've got a few different questions as we go through this that I'm hoping you guys can answer via the chat. You'll see them in gold, and I'll remind you as we go through. Today, to get started here, I'm hoping, and I'm not going to be able to see these, so hopefully you guys will engage and share. I'd like you to share, what does travel mean to you? So if you guys could just share, you know, in a few words, one sentence or two sentences, like, what does it mean to you personally? and hopefully track what some of the other guests are saying there, just to try to connect to that power of travel that we're also passionate about, and connect with as I go through this presentation. So as we know, travel and tourism is evolving, right? And it's becoming more self-aware. We're more ethical. We're dying to bring a higher integrity to our work, or at least most of us are, which, as I said, gives us this really incredible opportunity to renew and refresh and reimagine travel. I have a little story to share, to give you a little bit of background of who I am and what brought me here. So I'm 46. I got started in this industry, early in my 20s. It was with the Four Seasons and down in Southern California. And I was struggling with that. What the luxury hotel space wasn't for me. And so I did some soul searching. I was on a beach, on a bluff on a beach. Sun was setting, and I had one of those, aha moments, where it just became crystal clear, what I wanted to do with my life. And for me, that was, dedicate my life to service and to purpose. I hadn't traveled much to that point, but it touched me in a way that was transformational, and started getting into conservation. This was 1999. So I was getting conservation and ecotourism, and also recognized that I was an entrepreneur. And from that night on, I remember walking back, feet in the sand, just feeling like I was on fire. I knew what I was supposed to do. So moved into, this fast track of trying to start my own company. Age 30, started a company called Evergreen Escapes that did inbound and outbound naturalist-led adventures in the Pacific Northwest of the States, as well as internationally. That was in 2006. And then in like 2012, I started going through a little bit of a dark night of the soul. I was going through changes. My business was going through changes. It was a challenging time. So I decided that I was going to seek out an adventure with some of my best friends. And I remember I didn't have the money, didn't have the time. I had two little ones at home, but decided to go and climb Kilimanjaro. And it was the first time that I started to dabble with like bringing some of the experiences that I had in my life in terms of traveling from the inside out, that balance of inner and outer exploration into action. So the night before we embarked on this climb, we sat around and we set our intentions, and we talked about like, hey, we're coming up on halfway through our life. What are we going to do? How are we going to celebrate our first half of our life? And what are we going to do for our next half of our life? What does that look like? And so, we went around, everyone had a share, and then, we started to climb, and the conversations were deep. They were rich. They were powerful. We got to the summit. And a friend of mine, we were standing around. We're actually at the fall summit, and we were standing around. There was fresh snow on the ground, and he just started to cry. He started to weep, and I noticed this, and then the other guys, there's a group of around 10 of us. We all started to just get so captured by that moment that we broke down in tears. We'd assigned this amazing meaning to the mountain that day that impacted us in ways that we could not expect. And I remember from that moment on, I decided that I was going to dedicate my life and my work to unlocking the power of travel, and better understand how we can create the conditions to foster moments like that change our lives. That is my Kilimanjaro story that I'm happy to share. Coming back from that adventure, from that climb, where the mountain was obviously symbolic of so much more for us on that day. I set the path to creating the Transformational Travel Council. So that you can see that our vision there is a world transformed by travel. And our mission is to catalyze travel for personal and social transformation. And we do that through education, through community building, all aimed at fostering inner work and outer action that leads to the positive change in our lives. The TTC has over 350 ally members around the world that are leading this global movement on how we can transform our lives, how we live with others, and how we live on our planet through education and community engagement. We gave a presentation in 2016. There was a group of 4 of us that up at Adventure Travel World Summit in Anchorage, Alaska, on the power of transformational travel. That led to in that presentation, there was some amazing journalists and fellow tour operators around the world. Some of you may be in this presentation today. But it was very well received. The timing was incredible. People were open to this new but old idea of travel centered around going into the depths of our soul in a way to enhance and elevate the experience of travel. And so after that presentation, we landed on the cover of Vogue magazine, and it continued to just really take off from there. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and that accelerated these shifts, in our society and in tourism that we're, very much in the middle of now and experiencing day in and day out, and sort of this strange place of being caught between the past and the future, that we're trying to create. But within that is that opportunity for us to do things different. As you can see on the slide that I'm sharing, just a few quotes that sort of uncover, what people are saying, the shifts that are happening, the change that is beckoning us. And then, of course, we've got this transformational travel space that's this weird blend of like personal development and human potential, travel and tourism, and then, of course, the experience economy. And so we seem to see it sit right smack dab in that middle, with tremendous opportunity to really move and merge, some of these ways of travel together into a whole new way of experiencing, designing, and orchestrating travel. So as we know, in this shift, we've seen this move from like mindless travel to mindful travel. Right before the pandemic, or certainly in the 2010s, with the onsets of those wonderful devices we all love, and social media, I think we started to lose touch with travel, and it became something of a commodity, something detached from its real power and its real purpose, its real possibility. It became, it was online. It became consumptive. It was more about, posting on Instagram. It was about bucket lists. And then, we're starting to shift into this mindful approach, where it's slow, it's more open, this opportunity to be curious, and to learn and stretch and grow into new ways of being and engaging, which is comes from our definition. But the real amazing opportunity comes from this opportunity to move from mindfulness, this combination of the mindfulness traveler with mindfulness design, and that's what we're here today to talk a bit about, like, how can we bring together mindful design, or a more conscious approach to our design of travel and orchestration of travel with a more mindful traveler. How do we set the stage for the transformations? The experience economy, of which I mentioned before, was written or coined by Joe Pine, who's an advisor of the TTC. He wrote the experience economy in 1999. When I met Joe, he back in 2017, he said, "Hey, we're still a decade or two away from the transformation economy, Jake." And I was like, yeah, I know, I hear you, but I think travel is sort of rooted in this idea that we can be more intentional, we can be more introspective, and catalyze travel to transform our lives. And Joe was like, "Hey, the experience economy, the people are still wrapping their heads around that, right? The experience economy, it's what we see at our Apple stores, that what we see at the coffee shops, like everything became this experience, moved from transactional to experience. Well, now we're in this era of transformation economy. And that's a lot, and due in large part due to the pandemic. People are bringing a whole new level of intention to travel. So how do we help travelers connect with the new version of self? their newest, freshest, most values aligned version of self. Well, before we get into some of the specific hows, I want to talk a little bit about the myths of transformational travel. So transformation is a hard word for a lot of people, including many of your clients. You know, it obviously implies that maybe something's wrong, or that you're going through a change, or that you have to be a spiritual guru or into the woo-woo to have a transformational travel experience. Not the case at all, right? We're always changing, and travel has this amazing way of creating space to do that. Another myth: does it have to be life-changing? No, absolutely not. Transformation comes in all shapes, sizes, and forms. And it can be from a small T to a capital T. Does travel transform who you are? No, you're beautiful who you are. Just as you are. But there is opportunities for us to discover new parts of ourselves, or realign with our values, or adopt traits that maybe we let go of for a little while. And then again, another one is transformation happens on its own. Yes, transformation can happen on its own, but in this instance, we feel like you can take a more mindful and intentional approach to your travel in a way that really supports and creates space for transformation to happen. So our foundational principles are rooted in where are centered around this expanding of your consciousness. So connecting with self and spirit, with others and bridging, and then with systems and stewardship. So the way that we capture that is through our definition. Transformational travel is intentionally traveling to stretch, learn, and grow into new ways of being and engaging in the world. The self and spirit is knowing who you are, right? And then others is about how can you go within to connect in a deeper and more meaningful way with others? And then, of course, how can we connect and integrate in more life-affirming way with the systems that we participate in? So our foundational framework is based on that exploration, as you can see, and encircled with our approach to travel, how we approach, where I am today, why I travel, how I plan and prepare, how I go, how I return, and where I am. So how do we travel to transform? This is based on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. We start at the top. We ask why. We're introspective, right? We bring intention. Once we cross the threshold and move into our experience of travel, we bring mindfulness, presence. And at the end, we reflect on our experiences, assign meaning. And then when we return home, that's the important part. That's the opportunity to transform, when we take meaningful action. So with limited time here, I just want to go through three shifts that we can all take within our organizations and our businesses and our destinations to meet this transformation economy. First one is to reimagine the relationship with the client. Get into the why. Focus on the why and the how, but instead of the what and the where. Meet them where they're at. Ask probing questions. Like, look to diagnose, who they are and what they're seeking. Help them identify good questions that they can bring on their journey that hopefully lead to more questions. Another important shift is to revitalize your approach, right? Look at travel and your work with your clients and your guests as a process rather than a product. We've got a tool called Find Your Path, which is to bring this this idea of preparing and then adventuring and then thinking and honoring. This is all rooted in Cobb's experiential learning cycle, Maslow, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Use the opportunity to coach travelers on the opportunity to be challenged, to overcome obstacles, to be disoriented, and identify the gifts that those give travelers to stretch and learn and grow. And again, then guide travelers as the means to an end, right? They're seeking a desired outcome. They're seeking some sort of change or shift in their life. You can help them get there by adopting these practices and principles. And then we're going to reactivate the traveler. I think this is the most important piece is, we are so caught up in designing and creating space, for transformation to happen, that we often forget that it's up to the traveler. The traveler is the one that transforms. So the traveler needs to be more mindfully engaged in how they approach their travel practice. apply that growth mindset. Understand that slow is the new fast, and that it's more about depth than it is distance. And at the end, be regenerative, give more and take less. So to close, I want to just mention that now is the time for us to transform. It's that opportunity that we have to transform our lives, our organizations, our businesses. How we go to market and how we engage our clients and guests that are seeking something different in their lives. That they feel that there is something that's more beautiful out there for them. And with that, they can become, or they can, change who they are at their home, at their essence. And the ripple effect of that is where the really exciting and powerful part is that, changes our families. It changes how we engage with our friends and our loved ones. It changes our businesses, and it continues to ripple out into, this changes our communities and our societies. So with that, I want to remind everyone that travel can be this enjoyable way to foster the radical change that we want to see in the world. And I'm excited to continue to go down this path with everybody in tourism into this new way of conducting ourselves. Yeah, so that's it. I'd like to say thank you. And invite you to now say or go into the chat and say, what are some ways that you can transform, 3 ways you can transform your business in the next 3 weeks. I've listed a few ways that you can get engaged with the TTC here. Become an ally member that starts at $400. You can take one of our course, with its 14-week transformation design course, one of our short virtual live workshops. And you're all invited to join me at Transcend in Slovenia this year. It's October 9th to the 12th. There's $500 off with the discount there. And I hope to see many of you again, and even some of you in Slovenia. And thank you, Alice, for the time.
Thank you so much, Jake. Wow. Super deep content. Thank you so much. It's a lot of content, very powerful. As you said, people are super welcome to continue to interact at the chat. I'm going to suggest a slightly change on the format, since we have too much to say in such a short time. I'm going to jump into Jake after Nahuel and request Nahuel Alonso and Matilde from Esencia Patagonia to start their presentation, and anyone willing to engage with Jake during the chat. And we're going to send all presentations are going to be made available to the entire community. So thank you so much again, Jake. And Nahuel, please share your light here with us on transformational experiences and essential humans search.
Hi, everyone. Jake, what an amazing presentation you did already. Thank you very much. It was a huge inspiration for ourselves here. Well, as Alice said, we are based in Patagonia, North Patagonia. It's the beginning of the winter. It's a really cold day today. It was amazing conditions to be skiing, but here we are sharing this amazing project, which is called Esencia Patagonia for everyone, and what is happening with us and with our projects and our experiences after the pandemic. So I want to say thank you very much to spend your time. Time is one of the most important things we have today, and using this time to reconnect, to spend time together, to listen and to inspire ourselves is a huge present. Yeah. So I want to introduce Matilde as well. She is my partner, and she is the manager of our apartment of sustainability and all the socials and natural projects we management in our company. And as Jay was saying, traveler nature is a huge opportunity to keep pushing the world and our society in a better way. Doesn't matter which country you're coming from, doesn't matter your language, your cultural side, nature, and for us in this case, Patagonia is a huge inspiration to use it in combined with the travel industry to help the planet to keep growing and keep following the vision and the perception we are having, and how we are here to help to inspire another souls on a better way. And as you can see in this picture, we feel like we are like in a wait page now, ready for a new step, ready for a new age of what traveler means, yeah, and how that's move and that's dynamics and that's visions can be help the humanity to take better decisions from now to the future. So this is me a long time ago, but I really feel myself and my spirit in this picture as well as today, working and exploring, having fun, using the nature to spend the time, to use my imagination, but with the things like even from those days until today, they're really important to create and to share our lifestyle. The excellence starting as like the attitude to offer the best quality of the best feeling of the best sensation you are having to share. You know, the best attitude on services, the best attitude to listen, to interpret what your clients and our travelers are looking for. The education as the process to keep learning, to keep sharing your knowledge, and to keep listening what the travelers are coming to share with you as well, and to try to connect with the evolution process. Conservation as an attitude to understand like we need to preserve our planet, yeah, our nature, planet, the global situation we understand today with all the pandemic process, give us a new perspective, how important to understand and to understand how connected we are. Yeah, so conservation it's a step, it's one of the basis of our table. And the emotional ties, so the bondings and the relationship as we are having today, to understand we are not alone. No? Important is to keep listening, to keep connected, to keep in an evolution of where we are today. This is not a fixed situation. We are in moving forward, bonding and to interpret the diversity of lifestyles and cultural things is how we are going to adapt it to the next travel level. In this case, today we are going to share like a experience we have like a month ago was happening with a phone call with a client who used to be in a super high technology company. And for many experience we had to before, he was calling for a luxury villa, for a nice meetings, with a private jet, with a motorcycle safaris. But in this case, he came with another idea. He's an unicorn. You know, an unicorn is a guy who has a company who is more than $1 billion cost. And he called me and said, "Noel, I'm ready for something new. I want to try something different. I really feel like I was traveling and having services with you, but I want to switch everything. I want to go to the middle of nowhere. I want to be alone. I want to just give you the minimum as possible of comfort, but I want to see what happened there. What is the process? What is my own feeling, my own exploration, to spend 2 or 3 days in the middle of the Andes in this case with no one else than just the minimum comfort and safety things to be into the nature." And say, "Okay, but we are ready for that. I will call you back in a couple of hours with few ideas, and let me try to organize like something who I understand what you're looking for." And exactly as Jay was explaining, we try to put some new ideas and new meanings about what's the same title we used to be before in this new situation, this new idea. So history, nature, luxury, community, adventure, wow factor, footprint, we used to be by our company for so many times, but now we have a new idea, we have a new meaning for that. And this experience is going to put that titles on the ground in a new situation for my clients.
Yeah, so after a phone call, it's like, okay, let's start putting the ingredients together to design a transformational travel experience. It's not only traveling into a destination, but also to your inner self, right?
Exactly.
So let's start with those ingredients.
So the story is exactly the first thing we as Jake say, we have to put on this ingredient. We need to listen. Yeah? What is the story of your life? What is the background? What is the cultural side? What is the knowledge he's searching? You know, to put that's information and storytelling, and to combine them with the landscape and the natural things he's going to be exploring.
Yes, I mean, it's listening and knowing who is behind that businessman in this case, or that businesswoman, or that family, that parent, that couple that wants to travel with us, to listen and to know who you are, apart from the title or the business you are running, right? And also because when you decide to travel, there's a search you're looking for, and that's what we need to know for designing your trip.
Yeah, it's like an interpreter. Yeah, so it's not just to put a product facing the client. It's how the client is. What is the client search to understand the storytelling of the experience is going to live. So nature for us is an amazing classroom in this case. You go into the deep of Patagonia. It's a great opportunity to take it off of many of the things on the habitats of the city life, and take it off these clients of these consumers outside of the comfort zones, and start a new search and to find a new product. And sometimes this process has to be out of control as well. No, it's not everything management. So you need to cover the safety thing. There are some services, but you have to leave some open page to the exploring as well. So mindfulness, silence, awareness, I think of the attitudes to get connected with the results and the knowledge and the information and the transformation these clients are happening into the nature as well.
Yes, also, is it like the best scenario where you get most vulnerable, right? And being vulnerable connects you with being human, and that's correct. I mean, that's right. We want you to get to that place, an emotional place, and nature is the best where to get that.
In this case, we choose this tiny cabin or a lodge, like 3 hours into the Andes in the middle of nowhere, no mobile phone, no internet, just a fire, bedroom upstairs, and like a living room in the bottom, and that's all. And so we take him like with my daughter, 3 hours driving into the Andes. We leave there all the stuff, and I teach him the way to put the fire on and how to management some of the control of the place. I will leave him, and that's just that give us a new kind of what luxury means today. So used to be for him motorcycles or a private jet or a luxury villa into a lake, or in this case, luxury used to be just a safety cabin in the middle of nowhere.
Right, like a very well-known businessman like him. It was like he got the opportunity to have a resignification of the word luxury, right? And it was the luxury of being where nowhere else is, in this case.
Community, as we are having today, relationships and the opportunity to understand who is on the same page as you, on the same search, and the same questions as we are having today is really important, because we don't have all the answers. We are in the process. We are learning. We are exploring as well. And so many of the things who are happening good, they're good to share it as we are having today. But there's so many other things where it doesn't work in a better way. It's not that easy today to explain to a client why we need to include the carbon footprint or the carbon neutral money in a product, or how to manage the trash in a corporate event, or how to explain to our guides the way to put this feeling. So it's a process, and it's a move who is happening in a global, but we are not already prepared for that. So community for us is a really great feeling to understand, like we are not alone, but we need to work on the same direction.
Yes, and also by being in solitude, you acknowledge how much you value your communities, your families, your bonds, your friends, and not only your own communities, but also how are you contributing to them. And that is something that by traveling also makes it possible, right?
In this case, the adventure was to go into the mountain, and was the end of the fall, the beginning of the winter, and something unexpected happened. We expected to have some snow, but not on the level we had. and that's started on Friday, stay all day long, keep snowing on Saturday all day long, and he has a conference to be presented on Sunday. So in the middle of nowhere, we need to reorganize the logistics to take it off him. We have a plan A, plan B, but even we start to understand and to see how the nature was expressing this natural process as well, and how we need to be in balance with that. So survival skills and the challenging to control the fire on all night long, how the logistic to arrive to the middle of the Andes with another condition that used to be the way to take it on, was part of the process to be flexible and to adapt it and to connect what the adventure means in this case of adventure. It was not just a sport activity, and a sport activity was just the relationship and to the adaptation to nature, weather conditions, yes. Exactly. And we need to make a phone call to a gaucho guy who was living an hour and a half from this hut, and he take the horses, and by horse he arrived to the refuge hut to take it off him. You can see the Samsonite back on the horses with the dogs and everything, and was completely unexpected. But for him was a huge opportunity to understand and to get the value of this gaucho life, living with just a couple of horses, with some smoked foods, with some torta frita, which is like a local bread, a local recipe of bread, and how without technology, he was adapted to spend all the winter with the minimum of comfort, but with the maximum of relationship and adaptation to the weather conditions. Well, he arrived on Sunday to this presentation, which was an Endeavor Foundation. He was using the contrast dynamic between the high technology company he has already with a lot of people and all the comfort and all the energy he's using, and how important was for him to understand what is important to learn the way to live with minimum as possible and to control the impact in the planet as well, even when you are a high technology company. You know? So it's the focus of his business changed a lot. To understand the perception of how vulnerable can be the planet and how the technology has to be used with the young people, with all the farming of crypto companies as well. How do we need to management that kind of companies as well to keep on balance with the planet. Well, this is like a chat we did with Nat Geo time ago, and this is another way to keep connected and to keep sharing our vision and how Traveler is a great opportunity to put the people, to put our clients in a new chair, in a new situation, to open the feelings of property, to control our egos, to switch our daily dynamics and try to understand like, okay, the decision you are taking has to be the best decision for yourself first, with your values, and for the planet as well.
Okay. We would like to...
We want to share with you a simple video like we did with another group to the Atlantic coast, exploring like the Wales area and having biking, what is a cultural size and glamping.
We're not seeing the video, guys. I think we're still on the screen now.
You're not? Oh, let me see. What about, let's see.
There you are, Alice.
No, we're still seeing the screen.
No.
Actually, guys, if you allow me to interrupt, I have seen the video. I had the privilege to see the video. It's super powerful and really wraps up everything that Essência Patagonia has brought. But if you allow me to suggest, just because we have still 2 more speakers, and as I said in the chat, we are gonna make available all the presentations, including the video, so people can really appreciate, because it's like a cinema quality. So I'll kindly suggest us to share the video link afterwards, so we can move on to the next speaker, because as I said, there's so much to be said in such a short time. That's always a good, the quality of our events. So Nahuel, I would like to thank you so much again to sharing your recipe. This is community really so openly sharing everything that comes to design such transformational experiences that you guys do. So I'd like to move on with Claudia, and to invite Claudia from Soul Luxury, who's gonna talk to us on how to insert soul into luxury, and how to turn that into inner and outer transformation. So welcome aboard, Claudia.
Thank you so much, Alice. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Jack and now thank you for having prepared the floor, so to say. And thank you everybody for being interested in this topic, because something profound is happening. Whether we feel it, whether we can see it, whether we are actually already in it, but there is an evolutionary shift happening. And if we are a little bit quiet within our own self, and I'm sure some of you meditate or do other practices, you feel that there is something in the air, so to say. And for me, it started many years ago, and like Jake, I had my fair share of the dark night of the soul. But before that, I had an incredible career. I was working in luxury hospitality, and for 10 years, I was running the leading hotels of the world for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So my life was governed by 24/7 availability. My life was governed by being important. Because I thought business is what is it? It is. But one day I was at a business meeting in Paris, at the Ritz in Paris. I had this most incredible suite, as one does when one is in charge of a big organization like leading hotels of the world. And I went to bed, and I had an early morning rise, and I woke up. I walked into the bathroom, huge bathroom with 2 sinks and plink plink everywhere. And I looked in the mirror, and I was shocked. I didn't realize what was happening, what I did to myself. I found myself seeing a BlackBerry. At the time, it was no iPhone, it was a BlackBerry imprint on my face, meaning I literally fell asleep on my work. I fell asleep on the need to prove myself. I fell asleep in the experience of thinking I'm important. But what happened was, in that moment, my whole life got ripped apart, because I could suddenly see something coming towards me. It was a deep, profound, innate wisdom that life outside has shifted, but I hadn't. So I went on a journey, and I discovered myself, so to say. And so luxury is as a result of combining luxury. And when I say luxury, I don't mean that old bling bling luxury. What I mean is the beauty, the joy of life. And that is expressed through who we are, through our soul. So I moved from high flying executive. I dropped everything. I dropped all my illusions, all my beliefs about myself and about the world. Was it difficult? Yes, because when you gradually drop everything you believed you are, you get into a place of being nothing, nobody, and it's a very lonely place, and it's a very lonely place and dark place. But in this darkness, the light. I could open myself. I opened myself to the light, to my own light. And since then, my life has totally transformed. And I now understand the consumer from that other perspective. I was one of them. That was my job, and I was very good at it. But I understand from my own deep experience what the consumer of today and of tomorrow is actually seeking without them knowing it. And that's the complexity. It's this space of personal transformation economy, is a place where it's actually quite challenging, because when you ask somebody, how does a lemon taste? What do you say if you haven't tasted it yet? You can't describe it. So you actually have to trust somebody, either yourself or somebody like Travel Council, like Alice, your community, so that you are actually starting to step into that space of exploration. And once you are in there, in a community, like Naul was saying, or like I'm leading, then when you're getting trust, when you feel the trust in that space, then you are starting to open yourself to your own vulnerability. And as we know, vulnerability is strength, is courage. So from that place, a lot is happening. Radical consumer change, and you see this. People are much more aware about healthy living, and the pandemic, sitting in our own rooms, inverted commas, even if we are sitting in palaces. But if you're sitting with your own self and you're confronted with your own inner emotional trauma, you're really starting to break open. And the pandemic has changed many people. The luxury market has totally changed. The hotels are becoming really mindful that the experience, the soul experience, is that what actually drives the demand. And the most fundamental shift is that the consumer, knowingly or unknowingly, is seeking the heart of the experience, of their own being, of their own deeper connection, because we have lost our own selves in the life of comfort, in the life of the digital age. And there's nothing wrong with using technology for the purpose like we are doing now. But it's again, as Jack was saying, that mindfulness is that becoming intentional into how we live our lives. The reason why I included this slide here is that whole shift is advocated by people who have names in society, who help us to know that we are not nuts, or we are not suddenly weird or whatever. It is an evolutionary change. And when we look outside and really understand how much goodness is already happening in the world, that's very, very positive for us all to become more open to it. Now, I would like to share with you 6 facts as I see and as I have observed when I work with my clients, how the consumer is evolving. I call it spiritualized consumer because that's what it is. The first aspect is there is a deep desire to thrive and flourish in every dimension of their lives. And you were saying, Jack, about, some people are really sort of almost like scared about the word transformation. But we don't need to give that word transformation the heaviness of life changes, etc. But actually, it's that desire to feel good in my life in all aspects, whether it's in relationship, whether it's to my own relationship with others, to my own heart. It's that what we want. We want to feel happy, content, and fulfilled. And again, and I made a note of this, Jack. You said, as an entrepreneur, I dedicate my life to purpose and service. And you really underline that point number 2. That's exactly it. We seek purpose, we seek meaning, we seek connectedness. Why are we seeing so many communities in all sorts of shapes coming online? Because we want to find our tribe. We are evolving. We are going on a journey which nobody has been on. So we are looking for people who hold our hands energetically, who help us through our own complexities. There is a longing for unique experience. What Naul you were sharing, it's so beautiful. Diving into a lifestyle which is so alien to a businessman, and I had the same experience when I was going through my change. I went to live in a spiritual community in the south of India in Oroville, and it was life-changing by the sheer fact my life was always controlled by a diary, literally from morning until I went to bed. And then suddenly I didn't have a schedule. I had to actually be with myself. That was life-changing in its own right. And so we are looking for experiences which help us to see the world differently. And that could be anything from something minor to something big, because we are all very different. Consumers are more conscious than we marketeers may believe. The times where hotels are writing marketing copy by an outside agency, so to say, and with all respect, of course, is no longer enough. What is now needed is the truth of the experience to come through. People want to connect already when they visit a website, when they receive an e-newsletter. It has to come from our heart, our soul. That's why anybody in that business of transformation who is sincere, authentic, is thriving, because our souls will connect to the authenticity of the other souls. We know that on a soul level. We know that. These consumers are technically sophisticated. They are very aware of the power of technology, but they're also starting to understand the restraints of technology in terms of being a slave to technology. So again, that's something very important to understand, that we are seeking time out, total solitude. And to this point, people often are afraid to be in silence or solitude. And I always tell my clients, in that space, there is so much activity going on. It's activity you never become aware of when you are stimulated by the outside world. And the spiritualized consumer is deeply engaged and committed to a healthy lifestyle. And that's an important point. When we live a healthy and dedicated lifestyle to our own inner growth, we want to take this experience with us while we travel. So, for example, these days, it's very difficult and complex to travel with a lot of luggage. So, you would expect a yoga mat in every room and every suite, because that's what I do. We meditate, we do yoga. That's part of that lifestyle. So hotels have to really adjust their product offering to certain basic aspects to that, gearing towards that spiritualized consumer. Now, as I said, my life totally changed, and I feel that I live the purpose of helping others to transition from that space of the outside world to that inner world, and to really live in alignment to our heart's calling. And when we feel into this and can offer this on a wider scale, we help not only others, but actually what we do is we are helping our own soul growth. And for this purpose, I encourage everybody here in this virtual room to see yourself as a light worker. We are shining the light onto this path of evolution. And we are called to this journey because we have tasted the lemon. We know how it tastes, from our perspective, but we can articulate that experience, that transformation experience with words. If you haven't experienced it, it's very difficult. So thank you very much for allowing this conversation, for allowing this space of transformation. And let us continue our journey to the heart and sharing it with everybody. Do I have something
Thank you
else?
so much, Claudia. Wonderful. I mean,
and if anybody wants
words.
to, Alice, if
Yes.
anybody wants to join me in the heart of the Tuscany for a 5-day retreat of inner nourishment and self-discovery, please let me know.
Wonderful, Claudia. Thank you so much. As said, there's so much deep words and knowledge, and to making it clear how luxury and soul gets together. So much appreciated once more. And to wrap up everything that we have seen today, I invite our final speaker, who will bring us from a buyer's perspective, how is it all that the products and experiences being seen from a buyer's perspective. So Shana from Health Travel, please welcome aboard.
Hi, hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for listening in, if you're still with me. I am so happy to speak today because I attended remote a couple of years back, or a few years back, in Baracharis. So I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you in the past, and for those who I haven't connected with, hopefully this is a really good opportunity for us to have that introduction, and feel free to reach out to me and we can talk a lot more about lovely wellness experiences from around the world. But yeah, I'm just speaking about a couple of the kind of highlight experiences that I've seen throughout work and through our business since Health Travel launched. So just to give you a slight overview. So I come from an adventure and experiential travel background, and more an agency and tour operator side. So I guess class as a buyer when I go to lovely trade shows. So I have the joy of getting to see all these experiences from around the world, the best kind of wellness hotels, experiences that DMCs are putting together. So it's been an absolute privilege to kind of learn a lot more about wellness and kind of expanding my own wellness journey through that. Myself, I come from a yoga background as well. I trained as a yoga teacher in India. So I find that is an element of wellness for me that I love to tap into in my own travels. But I know that it's very different for every person, and everyone has their own certain way of looking at wellness in their own unique lens. So just to give you a slight background of the company I work for. So Bluebird Travel has been around since 1970, which is 52 years. And we've been working in the luxury travel sphere for that time. But in the more recent years, we noticed that there was a shift in our consumer demand. We were noticing that more people were going on health trips or going to clinics for certain treatments and wanting to develop themselves through other wellness experiences along the way. And then the pandemic happened, and people began to shift their mentality towards self-care and mental well-being. And it gave us a really good time to begin launching a new brand, which was specifically dedicated to luxury wellness holidays and retreats from all around the world. And really tapping into the idea of trips with purpose or rewarding experiences. And so that's where Health Travel came along. So we launched that officially last year, early 2021. And we do everything from working with medical spas in Switzerland to yoga retreats up in the Himalayas to wild adventures down in Patagonia. So essentially, that was a really great pleasure to hear about. And it's everything from full programs down to tailor-made kind of expeditions and challenges. So it's all completely tailor-made to support reconnection and full transformation. I won't go too much into the background of this slide, but feel free to have a look at it in your own time. I feel like we've covered a lot to do with kind of the wellness spirit on a wider macro level. But yes, going back to the question of what the key wellness experiences are, I have found that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, because wellness does mean completely different things to every single individual. So the first question you should always pose yourself is, what does wellness mean to you? For some people, meditation is a really good way of clearing the mind, but for others, maybe scuba diving is their way of doing meditation and getting completely attached to the nature around them. There's so many different ways in which you can look at it. And so when we speak to our clients, the first thing we always look at is, what are your personal goals? What is it that you want to achieve? What does wellness mean to you? And from there, you then can tailor what that experience looks like. For some, it will be a targeted end goal of maybe losing weight or learning something more about themselves. Or for others, it may be a more holistic overview of trying to discover new experiences or reigniting some passion within their soul that maybe they have lost a long time ago. So it's trying to work out what exactly is going to be right for the client, and then we work from there. So looking at the kind of map of the type of experiences that we offer, these are just a few of the key ones that we tend to see from the targeted health retreats, which have more structured programs, personalized meal plans focused on nutrition, health consultations, either pre-departure or on arrival, and that kind of full structured experience. Or on the flip side, as I was mentioning before, we have some clients who come in for a more active guest way, who are looking for a multi-destination stop, who want to do multiple days of kayaking followed by a long trek through the mountains. There's so many different options in which people are looking for these days. Spiritual retreats are certainly growing in demand, in line with mental health care and support. So the retreats that have in-house specialists for yoga, meditation, forest bathing, mindfulness experiences, they tend to be highly sought after these days as well. But one thing I have noticed as well is, looking away from the traditional methods of wellness and health and wellness retreats, is that people nowadays are going a lot more back to our roots. So looking at ancient methods of like healing techniques, or what were cultures doing thousands of years ago, and how can we implement that into our day-to-day life now? So it's been really interesting seeing destinations around the world and how they're kind of incorporating the cultural aspects of wellness, and people are really kind of delving into that side of learning more about themselves and how they can kind of implement that into their day-to-day life. So some of the key things that we found over the recent months, some of our most popular inquiries do tend to be based on mental health retreats. No surprise there, post-pandemic. Detox and weight loss retreats have always been quite popular, but I believe that's because it's always, for those who are proactively seeking and have knowledge on wellness, they tend to have those sort of searches for detox, weight loss. But actually, it's finding a way to tap into the traveler who is open-minded and curious, and maybe wants a wellness experience, but doesn't necessarily know how to express that or look for it in the right way. One of the things we found is the use of language as well. How you communicate that to a client as well makes a huge difference. Kind of keeping simple language makes it far more accessible for people to be able to understand how an experience can potentially transform them or benefit them without feeling a little bit daunted by something that's seems far too out of their grasp. I've seen some language in the past of certain retreats that have been based on, without going too wild, like tambourine of the womb, which is quite difficult to understand and process for someone who maybe has never been on a retreat or a wellness trip in their past. So keeping it really simple, clear language, and making it for a way that men, women, adults, children can find a way that they can have an experience that helps them and benefits them in their own personal way. That for us has been key. One thing we've also found is that men are certainly growing in number in terms of booking onto wellness experiences, which is fantastic to see. It seems like year on year, men are becoming a bit more in tune with their own well-being, and a lot of hotels that I've spoken to have also seen a rise in men not only coming for the more functional retreats, such as a fitness retreat, but also starting to look at more those kind of rebalancing experiences after burnout from work and things like that. So the balance of men to women ratio is certainly beginning to close in the gap. So that's amazing to see too. And one of the things also that we've found that has been very popular are specific dedicated wellness programs. So more structured multi-day experiences where someone can understand the full journey from start to finish of what they're going to go through. That tends to give people a bit more of an understanding of where that story is going to unfold, which really helps in terms of our interest bookings, and helps people to understand what their end goal is going to look like and how that's going to make a positive lifestyle change. So I thought I'd give a couple of examples today of some hotels that I believe in Latin America are doing this very well already. This by all means is not the full list, because I know there's so many wonderful products across Latin America, but just to give some variations of what I've seen. Palmaya in Mexico is a progressive, all-inclusive retreat, which I haven't seen too much of in Mexico, so forgive me if I'm wrong on that one. But the great thing about Palmaya is it brings something for everyone. So whether you are fully in the wellness sphere already or you've never entered that space in the past, you could go as a couple, you could go as friends, you could dip into as many classes as you like, or you can sit back, relax, enjoy the plant-based food and have a nice drink by the beach as well. It's a way of allowing people to step into that wellness sphere without feeling maybe too daunted in the first place. And I think that's a really interesting way of bringing people into that first step of the journey. But in terms of the plant-based dining as well, I think that's a really nice way as well of letting people to not have necessarily restricted diets, but allow them to have that playfulness of taco stands and things like that, but really focusing on how we could be more sustainable with our diet. And of course, on top of that, they tap into some wonderful ancient techniques and healing methods. So you can have shaman healing, ancestral dancing. So it's weird, wonderful, and yeah, I think they do a really fantastic job in Mexico. So if you haven't come across Palmaya before, definitely go check them out and see what they're up to over there. Looking on a completely different perspective, Delphin Amazon Cruises, who are not known for being a wellness experience, I think they do an absolutely phenomenal job with their specialized wellness departures in Peru. So the reason why I've used this as an example is normally when you think of wellness, you think of a spa hotel that has all the experiences around that. Delphin Amazon Cruises have the boat. There's no spa really experience on board, but what they've done is they've tapped into how they could bring those wellness experiences on board with quite a small space really, and how they can really kind of integrate the culture and the landscapes into that retreat. So you could be doing things from learning about cacao and the medicinal benefits of it, which dates back thousands of years to the Aztec and Mayan cultures. So you could be doing cacao ceremonies, workshops, coffee tasting, incorporating the wildlife spotting with animal locomotion and learning about how they move through the animal kingdom and how that can be integrated into your own life. And art therapy is a way, of course, of tapping into our own creativity and allowing that creative energy to flow. So There's such a beautiful mix within what they do within these departures, and you have that on top of being in these absolutely spectacular landscapes going through the Amazon rainforest. So I think for any property that maybe thinks, okay, maybe we can't really do wellness to a grand scale because we don't have spa facilities or all these huge wellness facilities, then I think you could think again, because I think some of these make some of the most memorable experiences that a wellness seeker could have. And it definitely steps away from the traditional health retreats that we tend to see. And then my final example is Hacienda Alta Gracia, sorry if I pronounce that incorrectly, in Costa Rica. They kind of incorporate a more structured program actually into their retreats as well. So they offer longevity programs for about 4 days. So it's working out how you can make a longer, healthier life. And what they do fantastically are the pre-arrival consultations, which you speak to a health coach, they find out about your current lifestyle patterns, your health concerns, anything like that. And it's then used to tailor the experience for when you're arriving at this beautiful hotel. And once you're there, of course, you have the use of local ingredients incorporated into your spa treatments. They tap into the surrounding nature of the mountains and the rivers from having river baths and meditation on the banks. And then, of course, on top of that, they have aero yoga, acro yoga, and all these creative experiences that maybe you wouldn't do day to day back home, but allows people to really kind of unwind and find that flow state that people are looking for when they're traveling. And it's a really, really fantastic way to create a full, well-rounded experience without necessarily having to go into a group retreat situation. I have so many more examples that I would love to share with you, but we're short on time, so I'm just going to round this up. But one of the, I hope I can get my words out. The key things that we've certainly seen over our time with health travel since its launch is that curated programs do excellently, because you're taking the client on a journey from start to finish. You're really aiding their self-development, and it gives them something that they can really understand piece by piece how it's helping to build towards that end goal. Getting into nature, which is fantastic for Latin America. There's so much sights, sounds, smells that really can incorporate into your experience to aid that reconnection and transformation. And cultural immersion, as I've said, the ancient practices and local traditions, people want to feel a part of the wider story. They want to feel like they're connected to that destination and place. So how can we bring that into that traveler's experience? And on top of that, imparting expertise. I think the passion of the guides, the practitioners, the teachers, they make a huge difference. And if you have that passion exuding from yourself, then it's going to transform and change someone's mindset and maybe help bring in those new lifestyle changes for when they're back home. And Teaching Inspire, of course, follows on from that too. People want to learn about the world around them. So give them the tools for that and you'll create a very unique experience. Oh, and nutrition. Nutrition is a huge core pillar nowadays, with things to do with gut health, sustainable practices, farm-to-table dining. People love to have that within their time away. So if there's a way that you could bring that in without having the restrictive calorie deficit diet, then I think that's a really beautiful way of bringing in all the pillars of holistic wellness into an experience. I've tried to say that as quickly as I possibly can, so I hope I've covered most bases, but thank you all so much for listening in, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have and share any other ideas post-presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. Woo. Wonderful. Thank you for translating everything that we said about transformational experiences and making it more tangible and bringing the pillars, and keeping up the conversation from a buyer's perspective. That was awesome. Thank you so much. And as said, all the presentations will be shared afterwards. So not to worry, anyone who wants to keep the conversation, actually, that's what we strongly support, to keep strong together, and so we can keep on the conversation on transcending the wellness concept with every inspiring content that was brought here today. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, especially the speakers, the experts, and the participants who made it all possible to happen. So that's it, guys.